What's up, everyone? It's Diego with Listenersnotes. Today we're going to be talking about the new album from the band King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This one is called Murder of the Universe. King Gizzard is a psychedelic garage rock band out of Australia. This is their second album this year. 2 albums ago, they came out with the high-octane and infinitely looping album called Nonagon Infinity, which is a reference point quite a few times on this new album. Their last album, Flying Microtonal Banana, is a great experiment with microtonal instruments and tones and tuning and just everything that isn't common in Western music, and it's just a really cool album. I recommend it. I have that on vinyl just because I absolutely adore that album. And they have said that they have 5 albums coming out this year, and we are already on number 2 now. I don't know if they'll be able to fit 5, though. I mean, it's already the end of June, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. This album, though, is, again, as I expected, way different than their last 2. This is more of a story album with a lot of narration. I'm going to dive into the overall plot before I even get to the sound. So if you're concerned about any of it being spoiled, I'm going to put the time when I start talking about Sonic stuff on the screen. So just skip to around there and catch up on just my opinion on the album and my rating on the album. Alright, so Murder of the Universe is separated into 3 chapters with 3 stories in it. I understand the overall plots, though I'm not sure if they have some deeper symbolism or anything, but we'll just go with the surface stuff for now. Chapter 1 begins in like a post-apocalyptic type of world, like the earth is all dust, the dust has settled, whether that's the beginning or the end, it's unsure, and there's this altered beast that the protagonist sees. The altered beast is this violent monster that is very powerful, but the protagonist wants to become this beast, so it tries to kill it, and after killing it, the protagonist becomes it. It becomes an altered beast. Chapter 2 is this battle between the Lord of Lightning and Balrog. The Lord of Lightning is described as simply like the being that controls lightning, almost like it just points its finger and lightning flies and just causes massive destruction. And Balrog is this hulking monstrous creature that's hellish and terrifying, but this ends with the Lord of Lightning destroying Balrog. And chapter 3 is about a cyborg named Han Tiyumi, and he's the last person to be born from an actual womb, and like he just desires humanity. He doesn't want to be a cyborg, and to him the 2 most human things are dying and throwing up, so he creates a robot cyborg creature that dies and throws up. And after the machine complains about his existence, Han becomes angry that he's so ungrateful. Like, Han wishes he could do all these things, so he connects himself to the creature and starts vomiting all the way until they expand and destroy the entire universe. Hence the name of this album, Murder of the Universe. So, diving into the music on this thing, this is definitely a darker album than their past few, and there's a lot of narration here with some vocals from their vocalist Stu McKenzie, because one, obviously I'm a big fan of this band and I like what they were going for on this album. The concept, the idea, everything here is just super cool, super out there, super wild. And honestly, the first listen or 2 of this album was fantastic, you know, because you're trying to figure out what's going on, the story's being told in a lot of poetry, and you kind of don't know at first, you have to read into it, and that sort of stuff's always fun for me. But after you actually know what's happening, this album is so boring and it's painful. Not only is there a massive amount of narration, which is something I rarely like, it's kind of like exactly why I hated Logic's last album, because he just talked for 20 minutes of it. I understand that they needed to tell the story. I just wish they adopted the rule common in filmmaking, that's show don't tell. Like, while it would have been way tougher to use their sound and their lyrics to tell the stories, it definitely would have been more impressive, and it would have given this album a lot more replay value, honestly. There's just nothing sonically satisfying about the narration. It's just there on top of the instrumentals, and it's not in a sonically deficient way. that you could see Mount Erie's looked at me, because at least that album affected me emotionally, and it was sonically deficient for a reason. It was expressing emptiness, sadness, and death, and nothing else mattered. Art didn't matter at that point. This album is just cool stories. It's not meant to emotionally affect me, but it just feels like the narration is so flat and so in my face, and that's the only thing I can focus on, that it's covering up everything else here. And honestly, even if that wasn't there, even if this lazy way of storytelling wasn't in use, the instrumentation on this album isn't really that special. It really sounds like Nonagon in Infinity. There's only a few tracks in probably the second third of the album, and the second story in particular is different. It's pretty wild. It's pretty out there for this band. But besides that, it sounds like Nonagon Infinity again, but not even in the same way. Like, I don't think it's as good as Nonagon Infinity, because the songs here aren't that developed. There's a lot of 1-minute interludes, so there's not a lot of transitions and songwriting, and it doesn't have that same wild off the cuff feeling, because it's about a story, and it just doesn't have all of the appealing parts of Nonagon Infinity. Now, with that being said, that's not to say the instrumentals are bad. In fact, it's one of the things that keeps this album from being a complete snooze fest, because there really isn't a lot of vocals in the traditional sense. The dark and sinister instrumentation gives something to listen to through the sea of narration. The singing and lyrics is pretty much, again, dime a dozen for King Gizzard. Stu gives his high octane energy, his howls, his everything, but why not add more of the story into his lyrics? They could have, if they cut the narration in half and just had the rest of it as lyrics, I could see the narration being more excusable, because it's not the entire album. And in this way, the way that it's framed right now, it's just hard to listen to again, because I already know the story. The fun of figuring out the story is gone. So now I want to go back and just listen to it and enjoy the sound. And the sound is just some dude talking. And it's not even like a really enjoyable or good voice either in terms of talking. It's just some guy talking about nonsense. Still, I do think the story's cool. I don't hate this album. I think it's decent. It's the only thing that's keeping me from giving it a bad score is not only the fun I had in the first two go rounds, even though it was ruined in the third, fourth, and fifth listen, but not only that, but I do think the instrumentation is good at times. It's solid, and when there are vocals, this album is fun, it's wild, it's dark, it's evil, it's sinister, it's so many cool things. I just wish that was the album instead of all of this narration. But that being said, I'm sure there are people who love this album way more than me, so let me know what you think about it. It's a 55 out of 100 for me. Like I said, it's decent. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just okay. And it could have been so much better if they just really put more effort into this concept and fleshing it out and telling it in an intriguing way instead of narration. But sadly, that's not what we got. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next video.